Alright, so just to clear something up before I get started, the only one that didn't get a dev kit was this, they clarify, was the Embracer Group, which is understandable given their last year's mess of layoffs and studio closures. I'm just glad that Aspire Crystal Dynamics were able to get out while the game was good. They understand they didn't want the kit getting lost in the shuffle. So, the Switch 2 Direct heck dropped today, and I can definitely say that even with me adjusting to some degree of sticker shock, the hype is very much real for the system and its variety of games, with lots of involvement from both the old guard eyeing their retirement and the new blood seeking to bring in some unique ideas. I'm not going to be approaching this the same way as conventional directs. I'm going to be breaking it down into a couple of sections. And first is going to be about the console and all the details that have been confirmed and corroborated it since then, and its games, which is going to be right out of the box having like a variety of new titles, legacy titles, and also ones that are totally new to this system's ecosystem. Um, so let's begin. All right. So first off, the pre-orders for the system will be going live 1 week from today. Hey, it's also going to be done in phases to avoid a repeat of years past where they weren't always in the systems meet demand, and of course a lot of people will trying to take advantage of the demand, and the console will be a $450 for the base model, and 500 for one that includes like a digital download of Mario Kart World, which I'll touch on more in a bit. In fact, getting that one together will actually save a bit in the long term. It's actually $30 cheaper than and just getting them separately, which not a bad deal, I'd say. And it makes sense if you're doing that out of the gate, since the one with the last game was a perennial bestseller for the console. I mean, it's also going to have 256 gigabytes of storage, and can be expanded upon with microSD express cards. Or it's make sure they're express kind, because the regular kind won't work with it, and also it's going to have, but also tells me it's going to have a faster read speed as well. Oh, and there's also invitations as well, and it turns out both the system and its games are actually like my Team Riley mode, some of my sarcasm jokes I've made about the of like the relative who totally works at Nintendo. Turns out a lot of them actually end up being proven correct, like how it's going to have, but not limited to, 4K high dynamic range. It's going to have 1080p in handheld mode, which is up from the current system's 720p. And it's also going to have 120 frames per second support, which again, that's a human eye can even see. Then also the Joy-Con mouse is confirmed, and the C button is also pressed to chat, which we touch on more in a moment. And the game cart's going to be red, my favorite color, to distinguish them from the basic cards of the existing console. And it's going to have 3D audio. The game chat feature, which will also have like a new switch to camera, which is an additional one it's an additional. Okay, so the camera is $50, and even though some of the frame rate is a little jank, it reminds me a lot of like the Game Boy camera from back in the day, and those ads used to have for that, and how many of the filters have become memes. Like basically like a precursor to social media filters we have now. I'll try my best to keep things under PG using this feature, as well as my mug if I do get that. So, oh, I've seen my fair share of people a fraction my age with John Wick uh, X69 screen names saying these would make the likes of Tarantino and Mamet blush, so to speak. And also, the Joy-Con are indeed magnetic, but they still have like the strap, they snap when you attach them into the system. And also, a great many games coming to the console, which I will get into here and now. Even though some people used to work at the company were skeptical about how it would launch, whether or not perform for the system, um, which is understandable given how 8 Deluxe success can be a tough act to follow. But I'm not sure how many people still feel that now, apart from one factor, but launching the same day as the system is Mario Kart World. Don't get me wrong, it's not like the launch lineup of the first console was the worst ever. Breath of the Wild, of course, was tops, and I also have affinity for Super Bomberman but there's going to be a whole lot of games that are going to be coming out swinging right out of the gate, as well as other ones within the launch window. But starting with this one, I like how each installment has added something unique to the Mario Kart formula, while still retaining the whole fun arcade racing feel, which is still to this day one that's accessible for players with all age and skill levels. Especially like the idea of like rally racing and the open world design concepts, and also liking the variety of tracks and racers, which are now up to 24 can race on the same track at once. That is impressive, and also still maintain I really like Donkey Kong's new design. Actually, like how it harkens back to a lot of the work that Nakue did, and also reminds me of the design for DK in the 80s and 90s before the Donkey Kong Country trilogy came out. And we'll touch on more about that later. On top of plenty of games getting performance boosts from the new console free of charge, there will be other games that will be getting Switch 2 versions, many of which can be upgraded if you have them for the original Switch, like I do, which is somewhere between my cross-generation upgrades, which I think is actually pretty reasonable given how the system itself, in terms of performance and pricing, is a bit above of like the PS4 and Xbox One line, and about in the ballpark of the Xbox Series X and the PS5, I would say, just what I'm looking at here. I also would argue that despite so many people are claiming that we've basically hit a ceiling in terms of realism, which makes me really glad that they're using the tech to go all out with a more stylized approach. Don't get me wrong, I can appreciate realism, and I'll get to more in a bit, but it's seeing the whole painting like environments of Breath of the Wild, just the kingdom, and also the otherworldliness of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond On's worlds, and especially a slick, like, near future rendition Lumio City and Pokemon Legends ZA. Those ones I think are going to benefit the most from all the performance boosts, I'd say. Especially, even though I'll likely be getting in ZA for the existing system first, I personally plan to go for the full upgrade whenever they announce Generation 10 for release, especially if it ends up being unique to this system. Um, and so, bottom line, Zelda, Metroid, right, and Pokemon are confirmed to be getting performance boosts and Switch 2 versions, with more to come in the following days. On top of a handful of titles which I talked about in the last direct reaction, I don't think I need to go over again. Again, the rumors were true about a lot of the developers pledging support for the console, which include not limited to Namco Bandai, FromSoft, 2K, CDPR, and EA. Lots of other names, so to speak. Case in point. And it turns out, despite my joking and parlance and other parts about the console totally getting Elden Ring, it turns out I was actually right. Through the Tarnished Edition, which to me appears to contain not only the base game, but also noticing elements and enemies from Shadow of the Erdtrees expansion. It also is highly possible that Night Rain name will be coming there as well, presumably after it debuts on other systems. And also, definitely glad that the complete edition Cyberpunk 2077 and or the Ultimate Edition will be coming there on launch day as well. So it won't just be family-friendly games involving plumbers and pocket monsters either. And yes, the way they imply that it's going to be like the version 2.0 update with the Phantom Liberty expansion already included, and also all of the content that was in previous ones. Again, I definitely think that's very much an example of a game, much like No Man's Sky before, that definitely earned its redemption arc. I mean that it may be difficult to come back from a rough launch, but it's by no means impossible. EA, of course, leading off with EA Football Club and EA College Sports mean, or it's NES for now at least. They're still sticking with Madden, even though the coach that provides the game namesake is no longer with us. I'll say this: even I, sitting in front of his various game posters and at least two pieces of Nintendo themed apparel, definitely helped teach me some like the more finer points. I mean, like how you can't just blitz everyone. But I do have to wonder now that FIFA and the NCAA chose not to renew the contract with the house of Andrew Wilson, and I can only imagine how long it'll be before the NFL decides whether or not to keep going. I'm kind of hoping that they choose not to and they let other people make football games for them so long as they're willing to pay them a license, as per usual. And of course, self-proclaimed magician Randy Pitcher decided on a new system and Borderlands 4 to be on it. I certainly hope it's good. I mean, I'm also very glad that Established has nothing to do with that disaster of a movie. And I still maintain that between that and Minecraft, just because Jack Black worked to hurt as Bowser does not mean he needs to be in every single video game movie or just any movie, full stop. I really can't imagine him being like the DCU Batman, for example, was like, hey, how's it going? I'm Batman. So there's just like that. Of course, there was like a short but sweet one of Hollow Knight Silksong, almost like going, look, Gary, there I am. I'm in the dead of the night. But given how acclaimed and beloved the first Hollow Knight is, I've always kind of approached this sequel with the mindset of let the devs cook. Same with the next Hitman, as well as the 007 game that they're working on with Amazon. I would just deal with them on the movie as it comes. And I will only say this about them getting control from um, Barbara. I mean, I don't think the friends are gonna be run by Blofeld. It's like everybody's gonna be run by Veruca Salt. That's don't care how. Jeff wants it now, and with that in mind, I'm low key excited for Hades 2 coming to the system, given how the early access portion will proceed. I'll likely pick it up once it leaves that point. The first game was one of my favorite ones, 2020, honey, and I still think it's a unique take on the roguelike experience and on Greek mythology. I mean, especially given the main reason and why Italic has such a foul humor, like a lot of deities, he wants some and hasn't gotten any. So not a total stretch. It earns its T rating. Top of other experiences like Human Fall Flat 2 and Enter the Gungeon 2 coming to system. We also have a whole bevy of titles to integrate the mouse controls. Main. On top of this being alternate control mode for Metroid Prime 4 and presumably other shooters, we're getting like a game centered around on Paralympic sports in which you have to use the Joy-Con to spin the wheels of your chair. Here, it is called Drag, Hag, and Drive. I see what you did there, coming out in quarter 3. And I think it'll be like our kind of like our ARMS, like a one that's not necessarily going to be like a huge franchise, but definitely he gonna be gaining a cult following at least well enough to who make an impact, because I always found the whole Paralympic athletes to be incredible, or whether it's watching them live during the games or even just that Murder Ball documentary. It's really good, but really intense. I mean, not just for the reasons you're thinking of either. Also have some new installments in more cult classic franchises, or at least ones that are becoming that way. We have a sequel to Daemon X Machina, or at least a spin-off game known as Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. Great title. It's a bit more my speed for mech-based games than Xenoblade. It's coming this September. Though once again, I'm going to be most likely playing it with the Japanese language option, since who they cast for the dub is not doing it for me. And there's going to be a remaster of the first Bravely Default, which those who play that game is good for them. We're going to have like the welcome tour of the console, which will be, I guess, a bit like our Wii Sports or Nintendo Land, or at the very least like our 1-2 Switch to show us what the system can do before we really start getting into it. Survival Kids, aka Lost in Blue, is getting like a new game. I don't know whether it's going to be like a sequel or a reboot, but survival games seem definitely have their audience. And if it does take a while to figure out how to do stuff, like how to build shelter, or how to get food and water, and also just how to not die within your first night on the island. So it's way more complicated than just us raiding and wrecking other players' camps. I can tell you that much for free. I can also tell you that the rumors for the long proposed GameCube Online were true. Arguably the worst kept secret of the system. And another reason why I wore my Toon Link shirt today, very lucky I would say, that Wind Waker is coming as original form to the harm as part of the initial wave, as is the GameCube vs. Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX. We're about to party like it's 2003, I suppose. And definitely, I don't know about Soul Calibur, but I keep hearing talk about giving Zelda and F-Zero full-on HD reversions, by some people who worked on the first Metroid Prime and the recent Pikmin titles, and among the future waves of titles that the long dormant Pokemon Colosseum and Gale of Darkness finally coming back, which is good, given how like how I finally got Colosseum from a friend of mine a long time ago, and Gale of Darkness has been highly pricey even among on the consoles games. Like how I mean, even like a low price for one without the box or manual or anything, just like the disc by itself is it's about $100 almost on average. I mean, so there's that. Back to titles getting ported to system, many of which are actually going to be on launch day on June 5th, which again was another detail that the leakers managed to accurately predict. I mean, it's including like Street Fighter 6 with the first couple of years of DLC already included, and presumably more to come. I've mainly been waiting for some of my favorite fighters to drop, as I usually do, and they found not only them, but some of the cosmetics and data mines as well. Oh, they already mentioned in the Elden Ring, but we also have Tony Hawk 3 plus 4, or the next couple chapters of Deltarune. On a personal note, Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition. I'll probably be talking about the Legacy titles during my gaming day this month. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S. I see what you did there. And Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, which includes not only the full game in its entirety, but also content that was not present in other versions unique to this one. I still maintain the comments made by people at RGG were made in jest about the a previous system, because it's clear to me that much like the Wii was in years past, the Switch line I can appeal to both young and old gamers, whether or not they've been playing since 8-bit and 16-bit days, or have known how to control their life before. It is that effective. This up before yet more and more coverage is to debut, including gameplay from the Treehouse Presents the next couple days, are games from beloved developers. There's both of which have actually been dormant for some time, and are now making their return in unique ways. We all know competitive Mario Kart, and especially competitive F-Zero, now get ready for a very different kind of competition with Kirby's Air Riders, something of a sequel or reimagining of the cult classic racing game Kirby's Air Ride, with Masahiro Sakurai back at the helm, which makes sense. He created the character, and a lot of ideas from Air Ride actually were worked into Smash later on even sort of the UI like that. And we also, of course, getting a Switch 2 edition of Forgotten Land, a whole new expansion unique to that game, which I like. And, well, not quite a sequel to Bloodborne, which remains my favorite Souls-likes and one of my all-time favorite PS4 games 10 years later. We have what I can charitably call a spiritual success from FromSoft, which has all the same themes, coming in 2026, the Duskbloods, and given how they managed to apply the ideas to a wide variety of titles, I definitely think we're going to get something special from them. And that also includes things like a Berserker boss near the beginning of the game. I once again reiterate, don't go for the beginner boss near the beginning of the game. Worst mistake of my life. Anyway, even though it's clear that the existing Switch is going to be a tough act to follow, with well over 150 million units worldwide to date, even I can tell that there's definitely going to be an audience out for the new console. Oh, no matter what people in charge say otherwise. Nice. Anyway, look, I'll say for now, I'll see you all again, and very soon. Where I will not be placing blocks and stuff because I will not be going to Minecraft. Take care, everyone.